Hello and welcome. Tonight, former President Goodluck Jonathan calls for remodeling of democratic practice in Nigeria, urges the President and National Assembly to build a democracy that reduces friction in the country. A High Court in Rivers State nullifies the State House of Assembly's Service Commission law, transferring power to appoint the chairman and members of the commission from the governor to the Speaker of the House. And House of Representatives summons the Minister of Transportation to explain reasons behind the repeated train derailment on the Abuja-Kaduna line to wade into the crisis in the Plateau State Assembly.
On business news tonight, Nigeria's crude oil production fell to 1.25 million barrels per day in May, and that's according to OPEC's latest reports.
On sports news tonight, Super Eagles Group C opponents South Africa and Rwanda take vital wins in Tuesday's 2026 World Cup qualifier, with Rwanda moving top of the group after 4 rounds of matches.
From Abuja, the nation's capital, civilian staff of the Ministry of Defense protest brutalization of their members by soldiers. Permanent Secretary in the ministry says all the soldiers involved in the act have been arrested and will be court-martialed.
And in international news from London, the US Secretary of State Antony Blinken has said that if a ceasefire plan backed by the US and the UN does not progress, Hamas will be to blame.
Nigeria will tomorrow celebrate 25 years of unbroken democracy, a system of government which is practiced in Nigeria, well, former President Goodluck Jonathan says requires remodeling. According to Dr. Jonathan, there is now a need for re-examination of democracy as practiced in the country, where the political elite has not exemplified the true spirit of the system of government. The former president said this at the Democracy Day public lecture held at the banquet hall of the State House in Abuja, where he challenged the administration of President Bola Tinubu to build a democracy that reduces friction in Nigeria. Our State House correspondent, Emperor Simon, reports.
Nigeria's 25 years of unbroken democracy is what this gathering is about. President Bola Tinubu is represented by Vice President Kashim Shettima, who leads eminent Nigerians, including former President Goodluck Jonathan, former and present political office holders, service chiefs, and party leaders. The event focuses on the journey of democracy in Nigeria, gains and challenges, as well as the prospects. Former President Jonathan believes inclusivity is key for democracy to work.
For democracy to yield its desired dividends, the political class and elite must lead by example and work with unity of purpose to guarantee peace and social justice to the citizens. And our lifestyle must reflect that we are elected people. A situation where children of political office holders go to parties and start spraying dollars is not the kind of democracy we want to witness in this country.
He has a message for President Tinubu and the National Assembly.
One key thing that for the next 25 years, you will midwife, because you are starting the next 25 years, is to build a democracy that will reduce friction.
Former Speaker of the House of Representatives, Mr. Aminu Masari, is the keynote speaker. He shares the same views as he urges politicians to draw the line between politics and governance.
We need to continue to remember that democracy is the government of the people, by the people, for the people. It is not just the government of the politicians, by the politicians, and for the politicians.
At a panel session, speakers emphasized the need for participatory governance that takes into account the aspirations of the different tiers of the society.
If we're able to ensure transparency and accountability from the people who holds the helms of affairs, I believe that this will take us through the journey of rebuilding back trust and confidence, and each and every one of us will play our role in this democratic journey.
Democracy, for it to work, has got to be fair. If we do not sort out our judicial system and the basis of equity for everybody, this democracy is going to collapse.
Our democracy is too expensive and it's choking us. We would have to find a way to get around it.
For Vice President Shettima, the labor of those who fought for democracy in Nigeria, including President Tinubu, must not be in vain, as he calls for accountability and leadership.
The future of Nigeria lies in our hands, in our ability to dream, innovate, and act with courage and conviction. Let us embrace this moment with a renewed sense of purpose, knowing that the path we tread today will shape the Nigeria of tomorrow. This is an invitation for each of us to participate in building a nation where every voice is heard, where every potential is realized, and where every citizen is empowered to contribute to the collective good.
This is the first in the series of events slated to mark this year's Democracy Day in Nigeria. The takeaway from this lecture is that democracy can be better with quality leadership that focuses on delivering dividends of democracy to the people. From the banquet hall of the State House, Abuja, Emperor Simon, Channels Television News.
Meanwhile, the Department of State Services says its attention has been drawn to plans by certain individuals and groups to hold violent protests in some parts of the country tomorrow. A statement by the Director of Public Relations and Strategic Communications of the service, Peter Afunaya, explains that the protests are deliberately designed to coincide with the Democracy Day celebrations. He further notes that while citizens may have the right to assembly and expression, such freedoms should not be used to undermine public safety and national security. The DSS spokesperson warns that the plans by non-state actors to incite widespread dissatisfaction through potentially violent protests will be met with zero tolerance, as the service is committed to protecting the nation against disgruntled groups. To legal matters, a high court in Rivers State has nullified Section 3 of the Rivers State House of Assembly Service Commission law, recently amended by the Martins Amewule-led Assembly. The amendment, which was enacted after the Assembly vetoed Governor Siminalayi Fubara, transferred the power to appoint the chairman and members of the commission from the Speaker from the Governor to the Speaker of the House. Now, concerned about the significant change, the Association of Legal, Legislative Drafting and Advocacy Practitioners, a non-governmental organization, initiated a legal action to seek the court's interpretation of the amendment in line with the nation's constitution. The NGO requested the court to determine whether Section 3 of the amended House of Assembly Service Commission Law No. 3 of 2024 was consistent with the Constitution. Delivering the judgment, Justice Kariba Dagogo-Jack ruled that the amendment violated Sections 5, 176, 197, and 198 of the Constitution. The judge clarified that the Nigerian Constitution grants the exclusive right to appoint members of boards, commissions, and institutions, including the State Assembly Service Commission, to the executive governors of the states, but these appointments must be confirmed by the state houses of assembly. She described the actions of the Martins Amewule-led House of Assembly as an attempt by legislators to usurp the responsibilities of the executive in clear violations of the principle of separation of powers. A counsel to the NGO, Boma Onwenabo, described the ruling as a victory for the rule of law and good governance. A witness of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, the EFCC, has told the High Court of the Federal Capital Territory in Abuja that the printing of the redesigned Naira notes was carried out in Nigeria by the Nigeria Security Printing and Minting Company. Mr. Ahmed Halilu, who is the managing director of the printing company, told Justice Marian Aneni that the printing of the currency was at the instance of former President Muhammadu Buhari through a formal approval dated October the 6th, 2022. Our correspondent, Emanuela Ekele, reports.
Led in evidence by EFCC's lead counsel, Mr. Rotimi Oyedepo, the witness narrated how he was invited by the former governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, Mr. Godwin Emefiele, who told him that he had secured an approval of the presidency to print the currency locally. He told the court that upon being shown a copy of the samples as approved by Buhari, he discovered that the capacity of the machines will not be able to cope with the presidential order. Mr. Alilu said that he subsequently suggested that the UK-based company, De La Rue, which he described as original designer of Nigeria's currency, be contacted for the amendment of the samples. He informed the court that De La Rue responded by submitting options, which he presented to the CBN for consideration and approval. He said that the QR code was not in the options suggested by De La Rue, and the numbering system was amended to ensure hitch-free local production. The witness told the court that De La Rue was paid £205,000 by the CBN for the services rendered. Under cross-examination by Emefiele's lawyer, Mahmood Magaji, the witness said that the unit cost of producing the redesigned currency was exactly the same as the unit cost of producing old currency. He also noted that beside the removal of the QR code, there was no significant change in the samples approved by Buhari and the ones printed. He admitted that the printed currency was officially launched by the former president and had remained as a legal tender. The case has been adjourned to September the 19th for continuation of trial. Emanuela Ekele, Channels Television News.
To the National Assembly, where the House of Representatives has summoned the Minister of Transportation to explain the reasons behind the repeated train derailment on the Abuja-Kaduna line. This followed the adoption of a motion of urgent public importance brought by the member representing Makarfi Kudan Federal Constituency of Kaduna State, Umar Ajilo. Meanwhile, a bill for an Electoral Act amendment to correct a mistake by the National Assembly in the last election has scaled second reading in the House. Our National Assembly correspondent Terry Kumi reports that the House also resolved to intervene in the crisis rocking the Plateau State House of Assembly.
The Speaker of the House of Representatives presides over the first plenary session of the week, following his absence last week. The attention of the House is drawn to the situation in the Plateau State House of Assembly, where some of the new members are yet to be sworn in by the Speaker.
Concerned that the remaining members of the Plateau State Assembly are being compelled to submit letters of resignation accompanied by court affidavits as a condition for their swearing in. The House therefore resolved to all the leadership of the National Assembly to intervene and ensure that the remaining members elect of the Plateau House Assembly are sworn in for the purpose of equity, fairness, and justice.
In another matter of urgent importance, the Kaduna-Abuja train, which derailed on the 26th of May this year, leaving passengers stranded in the Jere area of Kaduna State, is brought before the House.
The House resolved that to invite the Honourable Minister of Transport and other relevant stakeholders in the railway sector through the House Committee of Land, Transportation to explain to Nigerians the reason behind the repeated derailment and the measures taken by them to avert further reoccurrence of these unfortunate incidents.
Lawmakers then turned their attention to a bill seeking to amend the Electoral Act. In the twilight of the 9th Assembly, lawmakers had passed an amendment to correct the error, which excluded them from participating in party primaries as statutory delegates. But the bill did not receive the approval of then-President Muhammadu Buhari.
A political party that adopts the system of indirect primaries for the choice of its candidates shall clearly outline in its constitution and rules the procedure for the democratic election of delegates to vote at the convention, congress, or meeting, in addition to statutory delegates already prescribed in the constitution of the political party.
Meanwhile, another amendment proposed in the bill seeks to address the issue of overvoting.
Where the number of votes cast at an election in any polling unit exceeds the number of accredited voters in that polling unit, the presiding officer shall deduct the number of excess votes across all political parties in that polling unit, and the presiding officer shall be prosecuted.
This law is trying to say where you ignore it and move ahead to enter 12, whereas the accreditation is 10, you should be punished. That is to deter people from, giving us frivolous results. Because what happened is that some presiding officers are energized to just write the results.
In the meantime, the House has reshuffled its committees and named new chairmen to include Honorable Aminu Dalele as Chairman House Committee on Army and Honorable Abdulmumin Jibril as Chairman Committee on Housing and Habitat. Terry Ikumi, Channels Television News.
In part two, after the break, Senate passes 1.9 trillion naira 2024 budget for the Niger Delta Development Commission, as well as 98 billion naira 2024 supplementary budget for the FCT. Please stay with us. If you've just joined us, you're watching the news at 10, coming to you live on Channels Television from Lagos. A reminder of our top stories. Former President Goodluck Jonathan calls for remodeling of democratic practice in Nigeria, urges the President and National Assembly to build a democracy that reduces friction in the country. The High Court in Rivers nullifies the State House of Assembly Service Commission law, transferring power to appoint the chairman and members of the commission from the governor to the Speaker of the House. The House of Representatives summons the Minister of Transportation to explain reasons behind the repeated train derailment on the Abuja-Kaduna line, to wade into the crisis in the Plateau State Assembly. And U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken says Hamas is to blame if a ceasefire plan backed by the U.S. and UN fails. Now to the upper legislative chamber, where the Senate today passed 1.9 trillion naira as the 2024 budget for the Niger Delta Development Commission, NDDC. The upper chamber passed it after considering a report submitted by the Committee on the NDDC, presented by the Chairman, Senate Committee on the NDDC, Senator Asukwo Ekpeyong. The lawmakers also passed the 98.5 billion naira 2024 supplementary budget for the Federal Capital Territory Administration. Our National Assembly correspondent, Gloria Umezoke, reports.
Lawmakers converge for what is eventually the only plenary for the week. Budget submissions dominates today's business as the chairman of the Senate Committee on Niger Delta Development Commission, Senator Asukwo Ekpeyong, made a presentation of the scrutinized 1.91 trillion naira 2024 budget as proposed by the Commission. The 1 trillion naira borrowings became a subject of concern.
The request is normally given to the committee to deliberate and then come up with the report. But now it is included in the budget. I think the procedure here has been bypassed, in my opinion, Mr. President. So I want an explanation on this.
I observe that 174 billion was for unpaid projects across. What are these projects? Where are the lists that shows that they are really unpaid?
Yes, this is a bill that came from the presidency. But you know that before they can go borrowing to the tune of 1 trillion, they must follow due process. They must follow due process. So I don't think this is the end.
The report comes 24 hours after the Commission had defended its budget before the Senate Committee. The budget is subsequently passed. By the same token, the 98.5 billion naira FCT supplementary budget for 2024 is presented for consideration. Just before the consideration of the report, the senator representing the Federal Capital Territory raises an order of privilege to protest her exclusion from activities of the committee.
Though I am in the committee of the Federal Capital Territory, whenever matters, critical matters like budget or anything to do with the FCT is being discussed, I am never told. All I see is that it has been brought to the Senate. Sir, in the Federal Capital Territory.
No, the civil senator,
please, may I finish speaking?
The President of the Senate interrupts to remind her of the rules, which requires her to communicate her complaints via a motion.
You have your motion. Okay, so we suspend it till tomorrow. Point of order is in order, sustained. The total sum of 98.5 billion naira, third reading taken.
The Senate then dissolved into a closed-door meeting, after which plenary adjourns till July 2 for the Salah break. From the National Assembly, Gloria Umezuke, Channels Television News.
So let's head to the nation's capital now, where Marpe Ogun Yusuf is standing by to give us the very latest from our Abuja studio. Over to you, Marpe.
Hello, Ayo. It's good to see you. As Nigerians gear up to mark Democracy Day, civilian staff of the Ministry of Defense are unhappy. Today, under the Joint Executive Council of the Association of Civil Servants of Nigeria, they staged a protest in Abuja over acts of brutality against their members, allegedly by soldiers. The president of the council, Mr. Didam Joel, claimed that soldiers frequently brutalize and detain civilian staff of the ministry in clear violation of public service rules. Meanwhile, the permanent secretary of the Ministry of Defense, Mr. Ibrahim Kassa, says the officer and all soldiers involved in the recent alleged act of brutality in Lagos have been arrested and will be subjected to a court-martial.
It was not a good day for an assistant director in the Ministry of Defense, Mr. Ambrose Akibe, who was beaten up by soldiers led by a lieutenant at the Command Secondary School Iyanopaja in Lagos. Vexed by the action, members of the Association of Senior Civil Service of Nigeria, under the umbrella of the Joint Executive Council, picketed the headquarters of the Ministry of Defense to protest what they considered acts of brutality by the soldiers. Singing songs of solidarity, the protesting workers demanded a word from the Minister of Defense or the Permanent Secretary, refusing attempts by an officer to address them. The leader of the protesters highlights several acts of brutality against civilians, including the detention and death of one of their members.
It's a sad day for us because the one that led to this action is because yesterday you see the videos trending where one of our assistant director civilian was brutalized by some private soldiers in Lagos, the Command Secondary School in Ipaja, Lagos, and they have killed somebody already, one of our members, Comrade Richard, for some months back. 2 months ago. And we have asked the management to react, but up to today we've not seen any action.
Without mincing words, the Permanent Secretary of the Ministry of Defense reveals that the officer and soldiers involved have been arrested.
The Chief of Army Staff has already arrested the lieutenant and all the soldiers that were involved, in the Command Secondary School Ipaja in Lagos. That is completely unacceptable. They will face the wrath of the law.
He reels out other measures put in place to enforce public service rules.
Committees with the Armed Forces of Nigeria, specifically the Chief of Defense Staff of Nigeria and the Chief of Army Staff, and indeed the Chief of Naval Staff, have all set up committees to investigate thoroughly, what has happened both in Lagos and in Jaji. We are not letting any stone unturned.
Although normalcy has returned to the Ministry of Defense, the Permanent Secretary assures the protesting staff that the report of the investigative committees established by the ministry and the military will be made public in a matter of weeks.
Staying in Abuja, efforts by the Federal Capital Territory Administration to upgrade the infrastructure in the nation's capital continues with the flag-off of arterial road and bridge at Shagari Satellite Quarters in Kwali Area Council. During the ceremony, the FCT Minister, Mr. Nyesom Wike, explained that President Bola Tinubu's administration is making tireless efforts to bring back hope to Nigerians. Our correspondent Kumbi Abuluwade reports.
Days after commissioning projects within the city center in the Federal Capital Territory, the FCT Minister, Mr. Nyesom Wike, begins project commissioning in area councils. The first stop is this phase of project commissioning in Shagari Satellite Quarters in Kwali Area Council. The artillery road and bridge in the area, which was abandoned 13 years ago, links the community to the Abuja-Lokoja Highway, as well as other communities.
These two projects were awarded on 6th December 2013, May 19, 2023, to Mrs. Horizon Construction Company Limited. at the contract sum of 457 million naira.
Those in attendance at the ceremony include lawmakers, heads of security agencies, traditional rulers, top management staff of the FCT authority, amongst others. The chairman of Kwali Area Council, while speaking on the benefit of the road alongside the XU of Kwali, makes a request.
Your Excellency, sir, with your permission, I will beg this road should be named after our late mother, late Dr. Ladi Kwali, with your permission, sir.
The request is immediately granted by the FCT minister.
It is very important that charity must also do from hope that this road be named Ladi Kwali Road.
The minister attributes the completion of the road to the commitment of the present administration to bring soccer to Nigerians.
There's no one particular party that will use this road. If you don't belong to any particular road, any particular party, you must use this road. And that's what is important to Mr. President. It doesn't matter where you belong to. His ambition, his vision is to make that Nigerians your hope must come back. And that is why we have done what we have done today.
After his speech, the minister proceeds to flag up the project. Kumbi Aboluwaje, Channels Television News.
Still ahead on the news at 10, Nigeria's crude oil production fell to 1.25 million barrels per day in May. That's according to OPEC's latest report. That's on Business News. Please join us again. Welcome back. Outside the shores of our country, preparations are in top gear ahead of this year's Hajj in Saudi Arabia, with security receiving priority attention. Meanwhile, some Nigerians participating in the Hajj have commended the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia for providing efficient services for pilgrims. The Commissioner of the National Hajj Commission gave this commendation after a symposium organized by the Ministry of Hajj and Umrah in Mecca.
This is a symposium organized by the Saudi Ministry of Hajj and Umrah, and representatives of different nationalities are present. The discussion centers around the 2024 Hajj operations and its guidelines. The Commissioner, National Hajj Commission of Nigeria, is one of the participants.
I think the preparation is in the top gear. They've done so well, because we visited Mana and Arafah yesterday, and I don't know if, I think we were there together, the press. So the job done there is very impressive, and they've done a lot. And in the area of space, they've prepared, they've set all their beds, and almost everything has been done.
The Deputy President General of the Nigerian Supreme Council for Islamic Affairs, who is representing the Sultan of Sokoto, is optimistic about this year's preparations by the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia.
Instead of staying inside the bus for as long as 7-8 hours, within 2 hours you are there. We too now, we are guests of the kingdom, and we are built to travel to Medina very soon. And we are going by train. And then we are traveling even business class there.
A distress number is given out to pilgrims to reach out for help when the need arises.
So in this year, we have an initiative like it's called the Nusuk card. The Nusuk card has a barcode to have the personal information and the health information for all the pilgrims. So also it has the e-wallet. So this is one of the main initiatives that we have this year. Everything, we have a number that you can call, every pilgrims can call. It's 9166 for any help. It will be everywhere. Our employee and volunteers everywhere in the Masha'ir and in Mecca. It will help all. It's our pleasure. It's our honor to help all the pilgrims.
The Minister of Information, alongside other top Saudi officials, toured the media hub where representatives of various ministries are stationed to receive information that would assist any pilgrim in need. A robot equipped with AI technology interacts with humans for any vital information. Meanwhile, the Saudi Arabia Hajj Special Forces put up a colorful display at the parade ground in Mecca in preparation for this year's Hajj. With all these preparations in top gear, it is expected that this year's Hajj will be hit-free.
And that's all from our Abuja studios. It's back now to you, Ayo.
Many thanks, Markwe. To company news, Dangote Sinotruck West Africa has commissioned a fully knocked-down CKD truck assembly plant in Lagos. Now, the company, with a total investment of $100 million, has the capacity to assemble and produce 10,000 trucks annually and is expected to create about 3,000 jobs across Nigeria. The aim, according to the management of the company, is to meet expected current demand of this segment of automobiles required for logistics, construction, food and beverages industries in Nigeria.
It's a national assignment for the Senate President Godswill Akpabio, who leads other senators in the company of the Lagos State Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu, and of course the host, Alhaji Aliko Dangote, to this facility in Oba Akran area of Lagos. The Lagos State Governor says the government will continue to be an enabler for this kind of initiative to thrive.
This is a partnership in which Dangote has put in over $100 million. They've had staff that they've employed. They've curated what we see as a backward integration into this facility. And like they've mentioned, modestly as a state government, we have seen the benefit of what they're doing here. To us, we have procured from them compactor trucks that we're seeing, the orange compactor trucks that we're seeing on the road in Lagos. They were all manufactured and put together in these same premises. And as another demonstration, we've also publicly made another order for 100 trucks of the compactors because we found that they are reliable.
The Senate President commends the Dangote Group for driving solutions and initiative in different sectors.
I'm sure even the President of the country will be glad to receive report from us on what is going on in Lagos and how you and the Governor of Lagos are collaborating together with the federal government to take children off the streets of criminality into gainful employment.
Dangote Sinotruck West Africa is an assembler and producer of full range of commercial vehicles covering heavy duty, trucks, medium trucks, and other semi-trailers serving the local transportation industry.
We have welding and painting shops to fabricate and paint trucks, cabin, trailers of different types so as enhance local content of complete knockdown operations of commercial vehicles manufacturing in Nigeria. In the next 12 months, we will begin to fabricate different types of trailers and tippers bodies in our plant.
They tour different sections of the plant, and every part shows how each vehicle is crafted with precision and care to meet the highest standards of quality and reliability. The official commissioning is carried out by the Senate President.
Give me a G. Give me a O. Give me a D. Then all pronounce God.
Dangote Sinotruck West Africa says it is playing a strategic and key role to develop a heavy-duty truck assembling and manufacturing industry in Nigeria with the aim to increase value additions up to 40 to 60% in achieving domestic self-sufficiency.
Meanwhile, the Nigerian maritime sector has witnessed another significant milestone as the NLNG Ship Management Limited signs a vessel management agreement with Alfred Temile and Sons Development Company in Abuja, the nation's capital. While speaking at the signing ceremony, the managing director of NSML, Mr. Abdulkadir Ahmed, says the occasion is a demonstration of the company's determination to develop the maritime sector for economic growth. NSML is an indigenous vessel management company that provides local and international maritime services.
Senior officials of the NLNG Shipping and Marine Services Limited, NSML, officials of the Alfred Temile and Sons Development Company Limited, and representatives of the federal government are attending this meeting in Abuja, where NSML will sign the vessel management agreement with Alfred Temile and Sons Development Company Limited. NSML is a reputable shipping and marine services company committed to the development of the maritime sector.
Through this partnership, we will leverage on our expertise and resources to ensure the safe, reliable, and efficient operations of the Alfred Temile team. This is in line with our vision of being a leading international maritime services company, supporting the growth and development of the Nigerian maritime industry.
Officials of the NLNG Shipping and Marine Services Limited get down to the business of the day, which is the signing of the agreement. This vessel management agreement with Alfred Temile and Sons Development Company Limited is not just another significant milestone in the maritime sector, it is also a demonstration of the Nigerian entrepreneurial spirit.
There's nothing we cannot do. We have the professionals, we have the intelligence, we have the tenacity, the strength to put this together. We have the resources. What we need is cooperation, teamwork.
I can recall clearly when I went to the bank and I said I wanted my second DLPG tanker. They said, "Do you have a contract?" I said, "No." The guy said, "Are you okay?" I said, "Why?" He said, "You can't invest $75 million without a contract." I said, "So we'll do it." I'm glad to hear we did it, and we're excited that Vito has taken delivery of that vessel. Just like you know, Vito is one of the biggest trading companies in the world. If for we as a company, a Nigerian entity is working for such a company, it gives us so much excitement.
The LPG Alfred Temile 10 is a 23,000 cubic meters liquefied petroleum gas vessel owned by Temile Development Company Limited, which will be managed by NSML. NSML has evolved over the years into an international maritime service provider, rendering top-notch shipping services such as manning, fleet management, training, terminal management, and maritime consultancy.
More business news now with Will Ibon.
Thank you, Ayotunde. Nigeria's crude oil production has recorded a decline as it dropped from 1.28 million barrels per day in April to 1.25 million barrels per day in May, and that's according to OPEC's latest monthly oil market report. The 30,000 barrels per day decrease in output comes as tensions continue to grow in the Nembe oil fields, which contribute about 150,000 barrels per day of high-grade crude to the daily oil production figures. Despite this decline, Nigeria retains its leading position on the chart for Africa's top oil producers within OPEC, followed by Libya and Algeria. Also, Nigeria's oil rig count fell to 16 in the month of May from 19 recorded in April. Meanwhile, the president and CEO of Dangote Refinery, Aliko Dangote, has pledged that Nigerians will receive high-quality petroleum products. Mr. Dangote, who made this known at his $20 billion facility in Lagos, says he's also committed to beginning the supply of premium motor spirit, PMS, to Nigerians next month.
It's good for us to test all the types of crudes that we are receiving, so that because sometimes you can buy a crude and then people can give you the one that has a lot of metals or a lot of sulfur. But the most important is just that because we know mainly West Africa, is a home for dumped bad fuel, bad petroleum products. So we have the most updated lab. This lab, you cannot even find it in Saudi Aramco, because we have the latest, and we can actually test anything, be it aviation fuel, diesel, gasoline. We can test everything, kerosene, and it will give you actual time. The longest test here will take you only 30 minutes. PMS, it will start coming out by, we had a bit of delay, but it will start coming out by 10th, 15th of July. But then, we want to keep it in the tank to make sure that it settles. By 3rd week of July, we'll be able to take it into the market.
Now, the 5.38% drop in the FAC allocation for the month of May compared to April has raised some concerns about the ability of state governments to meet the demands of labor unions on minimum wage. The subnationals have said the 62,000 naira, which is the federal government is proposing, is beyond their capacity.
The average FAC share in the last 6 months has been infinitely higher than what it was. Coming down to 1.2 trillion naira this month is quite disturbing, because it means the revenue that we thought we had actually brought in has actually come under control. It's actually falling again. That is dangerous. And when you talk about affordability and sustainability, when you are talking about minimum wage. So one has to look at it and see exactly what is going on. But it's not far-fetched. One, in that companies have been declaring losses due to forex losses, and therefore you can only tax profits. Oil production has fallen, and so the petroleum profit tax have actually gone. Thirdly, the contribution of NMPC to the consolidated fund has actually dropped. So when you put all of this in together, and you now begin to see the threat to macroeconomic stability when revenue, which we thought we had put under control, is falling, and growth itself is not rising. So
Guarantee Trust Holdings Company PLC, Judicial PLC, is planning a significant financial move. The company has filed a preliminary red herring prospectus with the Securities and Exchange Commission to raise up to 500 billion naira through the proposed offering for subscription of ordinary shares of 50 kobo each. The number of ordinary shares to be offered and the price for the proposed offering have not yet been determined. The funds from this offering will support the growth and expansion of Judicial PLC's businesses, including investments in technology, new subsidiaries, and acquisition of non-banking businesses. In addition, part of the proceeds will recapitalize Guarantee Trust Bank Limited. The offering will target institutional investors, retail investors in Nigeria, and qualified institutional buyers internationally. Judicial PLC aims to list these shares on the Nigerian Exchange Limited pending approval. The offering is expected to open by July 2024. To more company news, the African Export-Import Bank has disbursed a $40 million intra-African investment facility to support Fidelity Bank Nigeria PLC's acquisition and recapitalization of Union Bank UK. This facility, provided in two $20 million tranches, enables Fidelity Bank to refinance the acquisition and inject additional equity into the acquired bank. According to the Executive Vice President of Afrexim Bank, Intra-African Trade Bank, Kanayo Awani, this disbursement aligns with Afrexim's mission to promote African control of capital, enhance intra-African trade, and foster financial integration with the African diaspora. The acquisition is expected to boost economic growth by increasing trade finance between Nigeria and the UK. We head to the stock market now, where it reversed yesterday's gain, and this is due to profit taking on MTN Nigeria. Larry Williams tells us more.
Hello and welcome to the Stock Market Report. Well, the Tuesday trading session ended in the red after we got that nice close yesterday, but we're seeing profit taking today, 99,630. That's for the all-share index, market cap 56.35 trillion. To sector performance now, we see the banking counter continuing in the green today. I guess the question now for this banking counter is the bottom in, because this has been on a downtrend for a while now after the recapitalization announcement by the Central Bank of Nigeria. Consumer goods, 0.10% down. And we see oil and gas again, a big 2.08% pump there, just like the 3% we had on Monday. Now to some market news now. See a big story today in the market. Diageo PLC, as a UK-based majority owner of Guinness Nigeria, looks to be exiting Nigeria after selling its 58.02% stake to Toleram Group, the consumer food giant. Toleram paid about 81 Naira 60 kobo for those shares, implying around a 60% premium on Guinness Nigeria's Monday closing. That was priced at about 15 Naira. Well, markets are closed tomorrow for Democracy Day, but today it's a bearish close.
And that's it on business news. It's back to Ayotunde for the rest of the news at 10.
Many thanks, Will. U.S. President Joe Biden has said he will accept the outcome of the gun crimes case of his son and will continue to respect the judicial process as Hunter considers an appeal. A 12-person jury in Delaware found that Hunter Biden lied about his drug use on the form when purchasing a handgun that is, in 2018. He now faces a possible prison term of up to 25 years, although a sentence of that length for a first-time offender is unlikely. Here's Simon Pearson with more international news in Around the World in 5.
Good evening and welcome to the channel's studios here in London with your international news around the world in 5. US Secretary of State Antony Blinken has said that if a ceasefire plan backed by the US and UN does not progress, Hamas will be to blame. Mr. Blinken reiterated his call for Hamas to accept the plan as outlined by President Biden 11 days ago. He said the onus was on one guy hiding 10 stories underground in Gaza to make the casting vote, referring to Hamas leader Yahya Sinwar. The resolution noted that Israel had accepted what Mr. Biden had presented and called on Hamas to do so as well. Hamas issued a statement on Tuesday welcoming what was included in the resolution.
Everyone has said yes, except for Hamas. And if Hamas doesn't say yes, then this is clearly on them.
President Lazarus Chakwera has said that the wreck of a plane carrying Malawi's vice president has been found with no survivors. Saulos Chilima and 9 others were flying within the country when their military aircraft disappeared from airport radars. Soldiers had been searching Chikangawa forest overnight and into the morning.
The Malawi Defense Force commander.
In a news briefing, President Chakwera said the Malawi Defense Force commander informed him that the search and rescue operation had been completed and the plane was found, but was completely destroyed with no survivors. Police in China have arrested a 55-year-old man after 4 U.S. university tutors were stabbed by an assailant at a public park in a rare attack on foreigners. Iowa Representative Adam Zabner said his brother David was one of the 4 instructors injured in the incident, which he described as a stabbing. China's foreign ministry says that none of the injured are in a life-threatening condition. Around 1,000 animals have been killed in a fire in Bangkok's famous open-air Chatukak market, gutting nearly 100 shops. Birds, dogs, cats and snakes were burnt to death in their cages in the pet zone, which also included rats, pythons and geckos. The blaze was started by an electrical short circuit, authorities said, adding that no human casualties or injuries had been reported. The incident has prompted renewed calls for authorities to shut the pet zone, which has long been criticised for the animals' poor living conditions. The Port of Baltimore shipping channel has fully reopened 11 weeks after the Francis Scott Key Bridge collapsed when it was struck by a cargo ship. The U.S. Army Corps of Engineers said the passageway where the Key Bridge buckled was now safe for transit. The channel has been restored to its original operational dimensions. The Dalai ship smashed into the bridge on the 26th of March, cutting off the shipping artery and killing 6 construction workers, while crews have had to remove 50,000 tons of wreckage in the weeks since. James Lawson, the black civil rights activist who travelled to India to study non-violent protest and served as chief strategist to Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., has died at the age of 95. Lawson, a Methodist minister, learned Mahatma Gandhi's principles of civil disobedience and taught them to protesters opposing racial segregation in the US. Through his workshops, he instructed countless activists on how to passively resist horrific violence and threats from police and angry white mobs in order to expose the immorality of racism. The Reform UK leader and influential Brexit campaigner Nigel Farage has had more objects thrown on him while on the general election campaign trail in South Yorkshire. He posted a video which appeared to show objects being thrown at him while he was on the top of a bus in Barnsley. South Yorkshire Police says it has arrested a 28-year-old man on suspicion of public order offences. Mr. Farage responded saying, "I will not be bullied or cowed by a violent left-wing mob who hate our country." And a kite surfer who spelled out the word help after becoming stranded on Davenport Landing Beach in California has been rescued. A private helicopter pilot spotted the word help spelled out with rocks and alerted the authorities. The California Department of Forestry and Fire Protection helicopter crew airlifted the surfer to safety. Authorities said the kite surfer did not require any medical attention. And that's your international news around the world in 5. Now back to the channel's studios in Lagos.
Thank you, Simon. Welcome to Sports News. Rwanda have moved top of the 2026 World Cup qualifying Group C, which houses the Super Eagles after they beat Lesotho away 1-0, while South Africa moved to second after they beat Zimbabwe 3-1 earlier today. Rwanda, South Africa and Benin all now have 7 points apiece after 4 rounds of matches. The Amavubis of Rwanda sit top of the standings by virtue of a better goal difference. Lesotho are now 4 points on 5. Are now fourth on 5 points, while the Super Eagles are fifth with 3 points. Zimbabwe are bottom with 2 points. The next round of qualifying matches will be played in March 2025. Nigerian club sides will return to action tomorrow in March Day 36 of the Nigerian Premier Football League, with 9 games to be decided across the country. Akwa United will host Katsina United at the Nest of Champions in Uyo. The Benin Arsenal, Bendel Assurance, will be at home against Rivers United at the Samuel Ugbemudia Stadium. Bayelsa United will travel to Aba to face defending champions Eimba. Relegated Gombe United will be in action against Abia Warriors. Ilori will play host to the clash between Kwara United and Kano Pillars. Heartland are in Ikene, Ogun State for their clash against Remo Stars. Then Poland captain Robert Lewandowski will miss his country's Euro 2024 opener this weekend with a thigh injury. The 35-year-old will be absent to face the Netherlands on June the 16th after suffering the injury in Monday's 2-1 win in a friendly against Turkey. Poland then play Austria on June the 21st and the tournament joint favourite France 4 days later. And that's it on sports. It's back to you, Ayotunde.
Thank you, Chris. And the main news again. Former President Goodluck Jonathan today called for the remodeling of democratic practice in Nigeria as he urged President Bola Tinubu and the National Assembly to build a democracy that reduces friction in the country. And the Dangote Sino Truck West Africa has commissioned a fully knocked-down truck assembly plant in Lagos with a total investment of $100 million. The plant has the capacity to assemble and produce 10,000 trucks annually and is expected to create about 3,000 jobs nationwide. That's the news at 10 tonight. Many thanks for watching. I'm Ayo Tunde. Welcome to have a good night and please stay safe.